Hello and welcome to this demo of the CD-based training system that covers what every employee needs to know about AS9100 C and other key information addressed in the Pocket Guide to the Basics. My name is Harry Stoidel. This demo highlights the CD-based menu-driven digital movie for training employees on AS9100 C. The movie is approximately 41 minutes long and consists of 3 modules that average approximately 14 minutes each. The first module addresses the basics of ISO and AS9100 C, as well as the quality management principles upon which the standard is based. The second module addresses the QMS documentation typical with AS9100 C. And finally, the third module addresses the important issue of quality management system audits, both internal and external audits. Here's a picture of the menu that comes up after you initiate the digital movie. As you can see, you can simply select from any of these 3 topics in any order that you like. For example, let me show you now by simply double-clicking on the first module here.
My name is Harry Stoidel. For the next 15 minutes or so, we are going to talk about what you, as employees,
once the movie starts, you can pause it, restart, stop it, rewind it, and so forth. As a digital movie, you can load this onto the company intranet, where individual employees can watch it on their own computers, or you can use a projection system and train people in a classroom format. It's entirely up to you. This CD-based digital movie can be used as a standalone training tool or to complement the information in the AS9100 C Pocket Guide for employee training. Likewise, to meet the requirements in the AS9100 C standard that one verify the effectiveness of training given, the training package also includes multiple choice quizzes of 10 questions each for each of the 3 training modules. These quizzes can be used in a variety of ways. For example, for pre- and post-testing, for assessing the effectiveness of the training given to a group or individuals, and for re-emphasizing any issues missed by the trainees to ensure ultimate understanding. At various points in the digital movies, references will be made to the appropriate pages in the Pocket Guide, what every employee needs to know about AS9100 C. Thus, the digital movie and the Pocket Guide make a good complementary pair for effective employee training. Here's a partial example from quiz number 1, showing the multiple choice questions to support and accompany each of the 3 modules of the CD digital movie. Now let's take a look at some of the contents of each of the 3 modules. Module number 1 covers the basics of AS9100 C. We'll begin by looking at the ISO organization. We'll cover what the AS9100 C standard is and what area of the organization it covers. This module also addresses the process approach to management and covers some of the basic requirements of the AS9100 C standard. The 8 quality management principles are also defined in terms of what they mean and their implications in the standard. This module also addresses the implication of these quality principles to the employee and the employee's organization. The module concludes with a discussion of the process of registration for the quality management system and the benefits and why companies would want to become registered to AS9100 C. For example, in this first module, we talk about the mission of ISO and how it's used to develop and promote worldwide common standards for manufacturing, trade, and communication, which helps foster the international exchange of goods and services. In addressing the mission of the organization ISO, The digital movie talks about common examples of how ISO has already impacted people's lives, as shown here by standards for 35mm film, as well as credit cards, which can be used anywhere in the world. This module also addresses the idea that the AS9100 C standard is based on a process approach, and shows how a process can be defined as a set of interrelated or interacting activities which transforms inputs into outputs. It addresses the process inputs and outputs and gives an example of a process and discusses how the process approach is embodied within the AS9100 C standard. The first of the three modules also addresses how the AS9100 C standard is based upon the quality management process model. This is described in the Pocket Guide, but we also go through and describe it in simple terms in the training video. For example, we address the structure and nature of the quality management process model. We also talk about the various clauses in the standard. What requirements each clause contain, how they link to customer requirements, and the production of goods and services that yield high levels of customer satisfaction. We also address how this fits to the types of activities that people are already familiar with in any type of aerospace, aviation, or defense industry. In Module 2, the training addresses the different types of documentation that's required in a quality management system of this nature. We address the common documentation structure, the value of the documentation, and employees' roles and responsibilities in maintaining and using this documentation. At the end of this module, we also address the value of listing the documentation that applies to each employee and their jobs. So, at the time of audits, they have this as a ready reference should they be asked these questions. For example, in Module 2, we talk about the 4 typical types or levels of documentation: the quality manual, the quality procedures, work instructions, and records and forms. Module 2 also addresses how this documentation is structured in what's known as the quality pyramid, and we address how these different levels interrelate to one another. The training also addresses the purpose of each type of documentation, how it would impact the individual, and how it is used in the organization. In the last module, Module 3, we address the 2 types of audits and the purpose of audits. We also address what auditors are looking for when doing an audit. This module also gives an employee an opportunity to see some typical questions that an auditor might ask them and how to answer questions from auditors. We then conclude with the benefits of audits for continual improvement. For example, this training module addresses the 2 types of audits that registration to AS9100 C requires an organization to go through. We talk about third-party audits, audits done by your register, as well as internal audits, or self-audits done by your company. The training addresses the differences between these 2 types of audits, and more importantly, how to answer an auditor's questions, both for third-party audits as well as internal audits. Several do's and don'ts are addressed, and suggestions are provided for employees on how to best prepare for an audit. Module 3 addresses in detail the types of questions that employees are commonly asked by auditors in both internal and external audits. Here, for example, is a partial list of the type of questions that we address in the training, as well as addressing how to answer these types of questions. Finally, we conclude with the very fundamental idea that any audit is an audit of the quality management system, not the people. It's important for employees to understand this, to be prepared, but not to be fearful. This is the end of the demo of the CD training system that covers what every employee needs to know about AS9100 C. Hopefully this has given you an idea of the content of this 41-minute, 3-module digital movie package designed specifically for training your employees about what they need to know about the AS9100 C standard and the QMS based on it. For further information, please contact Laura Schultz as shown here. Thank you.